Stephen King's. It is a complicated story with a lot happening, and it can sometimes be confusing. But don't worry, we're here to help explain everything you need to know about the movies based on the classic novel. There might be spoilers ahead. In the 2017 movie, It, we don't learn much about the backstory of the ancient villain, except that it's been around for a long time. However, King's book gives us more details. It, the shape-shifting creature that often looks like a creepy clown named Pennywise, is actually older than humanity. It is a cosmic being that's billions of years old and comes from a different dimension called the Macroverse. Long ago, it arrived on Earth on an asteroid, landing where the town of Derry, Maine would later be. It hibernated until humans showed up, and every 27 years, it wakes up to feed on people. Although it can take any form, it prefers being Pennywise the clown. Its true form, called the Deadlights, is so strange it can make people lose their minds. Beverly Marsh saw them in the first movie and survived, but it put her in a coma for a while. As odd as Pennywise is, its main enemy is even stranger, a giant turtle named Maturin, who comes from the same place as Pennywise. The turtle is a force of creation, not destruction, and it actually created our universe by accident when it had a stomachache. So, when you compare that, a shape-shifting killer clown doesn't seem so strange anymore. In the 2017 movie, It, the story begins in 1988, when 7-year-old Georgie Denbrough goes outside in the rain to play with a paper sailboat that his older brother Bill made for him. The boat slips away from Georgie and floats down the street until it falls into a storm drain. When Georgie tries to retrieve it, he finds a clown in the drain. Georgie doesn't know that this clown is actually the evil Pennywise, who has just woken up after a 27-year hibernation. Pennywise lures Georgie closer, not only promising to give back the boat, but also telling him there's a whole circus waiting in the sewer. Georgie hesitates but still wants his boat, so when Pennywise offers it, he reaches for it, and Pennywise bites off his arm. Pennywise then drags Georgie into the sewer. The town assumes Georgie drowned, but his brother Bill is determined to find out what really happened. Bill and his friends form a group called the Losers Club to confront Pennywise. The original members are Bill, Richie Tozier, Eddie Kasprick, and Stan Uris, with Ben Hanscom, Beverly Marsh, and Mike Hanlon joining later. Each member of the group is an outcast in some way, which is why they bond and call themselves losers. They spend the summer together after Georgie's disappearance. Many of the losers have personal struggles. Beverly has an abusive and creepy father. Eddie's mother is overprotective and convinces him he's always sick. Mike is an orphan who witnessed his parents die in a fire, and Bill feels guilty about Georgie's disappearance and still grieves for his brother. Some of the losers are more than just friends, or at least they hope to be. In the first film, both Ben and Bill develop feelings for Beverly. Ben is the first to have a big crush on her, and even writes her a love poem, pretending to be a secret admirer. Beverly loves the poem and believes Bill wrote it, which leads her to develop feelings for him, much to Ben's disappointment. Even after learning that Ben was the one who wrote the poem, after he revives her from a coma with a kiss, Beverly still has feelings for Bill. By the end of the first film, Beverly and Bill kiss, setting up a love triangle that becomes more important in It, Chapter 2. In the book, after the Losers Club first defeats Pennywise, they all go their separate ways. Over the 27 years that follow, they change in many ways, especially Ben. He goes from being an overweight kid to a rich and handsome man, something Beverly notices when the group reunites as adults. After exploring her lingering feelings for Bill, including sleeping with him even though they're both married, Beverly eventually realizes it's Ben she truly loves, and the two end up together by the novel's end. Besides Georgie, other children disappear in Derry, like Eddie Corcoran and Betty Ripsome. This leads the losers to suspect something is wrong in their town. Before officially joining the group, Ben researches Derry's history and discovers that every 27 years, there's a spike in violent deaths and disappearances, much higher than the national average, especially among kids. However, it's not always Pennywise directly causing the killings. When he wakes up, his evil influence spreads through the town, causing a rise in violence and hate crimes. In the novel, it's Mike who takes on the role of town historian instead of Ben. Mike first learns about Derry's dark history from his father, who kept a photo album filled with pictures of the town, including old photos of Pennywise, some dating back many decades. As an adult, Mike is the only member of the Losers Club to stay behind in Derry after the others leave. He becomes the town librarian and continues learning about Derry's twisted history, staying connected to its horrors. One by one, Pennywise begins to target the losers again. Pennywise appears to each of the losers individually, first taking the form of their worst fears before revealing itself as the clown. Bill sees Georgie in the basement, Mike sees burning bodies, Eddie encounters a deformed leper, Stan watches a creepy painting come to life, Beverly is sprayed with blood from her sink, Ben is chased by a headless man in the library, and Richie sees a doll of his own corpse covered in maggots. While some of these scenes happen differently in the book, the result is the same. They all realize that the terrifying clown is behind the child murders in Derry. Pennywise also appears to the town bully, Henry Bowers, but instead of eating him, it uses Henry as a tool for violence. Pennywise shapeshifts into monsters to scare its victims because it feeds on fear. Children are easier to scare than adults, and according to Pennywise, their flesh tastes better when they're terrified. It compares the process to seasoning meat in the book, where it describes scaring its victims before eating them as a way to make them tender and juicy. After a terrifying encounter with Pennywise at the abandoned house on Neibolt Street, most of the losers want to forget about it and stop fighting. However, when Beverly is kidnapped by the clown, the group rallies to rescue her. They track her to the sewers, entering Pennywise's domain to save her and seemingly defeat the clown for good. After this traumatic battle, the losers realize they are growing up. In the original movie, Bill suggests they make a blood oath, promising to return and fight Pennywise if it ever comes back to Derry. He uses a broken piece of glass to cut each of their palms, and they stand in a circle, holding hands to seal the promise. This scene effectively concludes the first It movie. In the book, it's Stan who initiates the blood oath, not Bill, but the meaning is the same. In It Chapter 2 and the novel, all the losers eventually leave Derry, except for Mike. Over the next 27 years, those who left gradually forget the traumatic events from their childhood. Mike, however, stays in Derry and remembers everything. When children start disappearing again, he contacts his old friends to fulfill the oath they made 27 years earlier. As adults, the losers all find success in their professional lives, but many still struggle with the emotional scars from their childhood, none more so than Stan. After receiving Mike's call, Stan immediately recalls the terrifying events of his past. Unable to face them again, he takes his own life, slitting his wrists in the bath and writing "It" on the wall in blood as his final act. The remaining 6 losers reunite at a Chinese restaurant in Derry, their first gathering in 27 years. After learning of Stan's death, they are confronted by Pennywise, who makes its presence known by taking on grotesque forms in their fortune cookies. The group then declares their intent to defeat Pennywise once and for all. In the 2017 It film, Henry Bowers appears to die after Mike pushes him down a well, which could have posed a problem for the sequel, as Henry plays a key role as an adult in the book. However, fans need not worry. Henry survived. The adult version of Henry has been cast for the sequel and can even be seen briefly in the movie's trailer. After his final encounter with the losers as a child, Henry is committed to a mental institution for killing his father. In the book, Pennywise once again manipulates Henry as an adult, freeing him from the institution and commanding him to kill the losers. When Henry fails, Pennywise tries a new tactic. In the book, Beverly's abusive husband, Tom, arrives in Derry, intent on killing her. Pennywise takes control of Beverly's abusive husband, Tom, and uses him to kidnap Bill's wife, Audra, who has come to Derry because she's worried about Bill. Tom brings Audra to Pennywise's lair in the sewers to lure Bill into a trap. Once there, Pennywise shows its true form to both Tom and Audra, killing Tom and putting Audra into a coma. The plan works, and Bill heads to the sewers for a final showdown with Pennywise, but he's not alone. Ben, Beverly, Eddie, and Richie join him. The 5 losers face Pennywise, who takes the form of a giant spider. They defeat Pennywise through a mystical battle of wills. Sadly, Eddie dies during the fight, but the rest of the group manages to kill Pennywise for good. Afterward, they all go their separate ways again, with Ben and Beverly leaving Derry together. Over time, just like before, they gradually forget the events they experienced.